The snow started just after sunrise, not the soft, romantic kind that dusts windowsills like powdered sugar. No, this was the kind that swallows highways, howls against the windshield, and makes you question every decision that brought you here. But I kept driving, both hands on the wheel, jaw tight, eyes squinting through the storm. In the passenger seat sat a silver bakery box, tied with gold ribbon. Inside was Chloe's favorite: lemon poppy chiffon with honey frosting and candied violets. A cake I'd ordered 3 weeks ago, paid in full, special instructions, made fresh that morning. It sat on my lap most of the ride like it was fragile. Truth, or maybe proof, that I cared, that I showed up. Chloe had always loved big gestures, so I planned one. 9 hours on the road, through ice, sleet, and the kind of fog that makes the world feel like a forgotten dream. I wanted to surprise her at her engagement party, not for attention, not even to be thanked, just to see her smile. The one she used to have when we were kids, making birthday cards from construction paper and glue. Somewhere outside Albany, I stopped for gas. Changed into heels in a rest stop restroom. My wool coat stuck to me like damp regret. Still, I looked at myself in the mirror, cheeks flushed from cold and wind, and whispered, "She's your sister. This will mean something." By the time I reached the Caldwell estate, twilight had begun to pull shadows across the snowbanks. The gates were strung with twinkling gold lights. The air smelled faintly of pine and smoke. And through the front windows, I caught the glow of chandeliers and silhouettes dancing between them. I let myself believe, for a moment, that I belonged in there. That this would be one of those nights we'd remember, a story to retell. But I was wrong. I handed the valet my keys with a nervous smile. He blinked at me twice, then asked, "Are you with catering?" And just like that, the snow wasn't the coldest thing I'd faced that night. I laughed, polite, unsure, brushing the snow off my coat sleeve as the valet disappeared with my car. Catering? Maybe it was the bakery box, or maybe I just looked like someone who didn't belong near crystal chandeliers and silk runners. Inside, warmth hit me like a wall. Vanilla candles, polished marble floors, a string quartet playing something. Classical but forgettable. And yet, the chill from outside didn't leave my spine. I stepped into the grand hall, clutching the cake like a peace offering, trying to blend in, trying not to look too eager, but the room didn't blend back. Nobody turned to greet me. No one called my name, just soft glances over champagne glasses. Smiles that vanished the second I looked up. The kind of smiles that were trained, not warm. I spotted Chloe near the floral archway. She looked stunning, of course, like she'd been painted into the frame. Blush pink gown, curls pinned like a bridal magazine spread. She was laughing at something Ryan whispered, until she saw me. Her smile stuttered, then dropped completely. "You actually came?" she said, not moving toward me. Not even reaching for the cake. "I drove all day," I offered, voice lighter than I felt. Surprise, a pause, then, "I didn't think you'd, make it in this weather." I nodded, setting the box gently on the dessert table, right beside trays of macarons and a tower of eclairs. "Well, I did. Wouldn't miss it." She didn't thank me, didn't introduce me to the cluster of guests around her. Just turned, whispered something to Tasha, and melted back into the crowd. That's when I heard it, a soft, unmistakable whisper behind me. "She wasn't on the list, was she?" And laughter. Not loud, but loud enough. I didn't flinch. Not on the outside. I just stood there, the way people stand in galleries staring at portraits of strangers. They're told to love. I scanned the tables, looked for a name card, mine. Checked the edges, the kids section, even the DJ's booth. Nothing. The only empty seat I found was by the dessert station. Just as I moved toward it, a waiter stepped in with a polished smile. "Oh, I'm sorry. That's for the DJ's assistant." I stepped back, nodded, said, "Of course." But in that moment, I knew. I wasn't forgotten. I was erased. I drifted toward the edge of the room, coat still draped over my arm like a shield. I didn't belong in anyone's conversation, so I lingered near the dessert table, watching people float past like I was part of the decor. No one stopped. No one asked who I was. Across the ballroom, a projector screen glowed to life. Faint music, then flickering images. A slideshow. Chloe blowing out birthday candles, Chloe at dance recitals, Chloe in graduation robes with our mother. Hugging her tightly. Frame after frame, years of memories, carefully curated. I waited to see myself, but I didn't come. Not in prom photos, not at beach vacations, not even the Christmas mornings we'd spent together before I moved away. Like, I'd been cropped out. Like I was never there. I blinked hard, then wandered toward the coat room to regroup. I just needed a minute, a quiet space to breathe. That's when I saw it. An ornate silver tray laid out on a velvet table. 10 identical gift boxes, wrapped in ivory paper and tied with blush pink ribbon. Each one labeled in delicate cursive, Tasha, Rachel, Cam, Hannah. Even Chloe's college roommate, who once drunkenly called me boring at a New Year's party. No Lena. No note. No box. Not even a scribbled name tag forgotten in the rush. I sat on the bench beside the tray and exhaled slow, like maybe breathing could slow the ache blooming in my chest. Then, my phone buzzed. A group text. Bridal party. Final reminders. I wasn't supposed to be on it. Maybe someone added me by mistake. Maybe fate did it on purpose. Most messages were logistics, hair appointments, vendor check-ins, flower counts. But then I saw it. Timestamp, 9:14 a.m. from Chloe's number. She doesn't fit the look. We'll say the list was full. My throat went dry, the kind of dry that no glass of water could fix. I stared at the screen, willing it to change, but it stayed the same. Permanent. Meant to be read by everyone except me. Not an accident. A plan. I closed the thread, slipped my phone into my pocket, stood slowly, the coat still in my arms. But I no longer felt cold, just hollow. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was erasure, carefully crafted, rehearsed, and signed with a smile. I left the coat room on autopilot, each step heavier than the last. I didn't cry. Not yet. Not there. Instead, I drifted down a side hallway I hadn't noticed before, dimly lit, lined with warming trays and carts stacked with untouched hors d'oeuvres. The air smelled like rosemary and bleach, oddly sterile. For a night meant to sparkle. I only meant to find the restroom. But then I heard it. Laughter. Not just any laughter. Chloe's. It echoed, loose and careless, just around the corner. I froze. Their voices bounced off tile and linoleum, louder in that narrow corridor than they probably realized. She actually came? Someone said, already laughing. That was Tasha. I'd recognize that sing-song cruelty anywhere. Then Chloe's voice joined in, soft and biting. Can you believe it? 9 hours through a snowstorm for what? A pity cupcake? Another snort. Then, a third voice chimed in, one of the other bridesmaids maybe. What if she'd crashed on the way? Chloe chuckled. That low, familiar chuckle that used to mean secrets whispered in the dark. This time it held something colder. Honestly? She said. The silence, the sympathy, would have been a bonus. They laughed, loud, cruel, unashamed, and I just stood there, back pressed to the wall, fists clenched at my sides. Not in anger, but to stop the shaking. I stared at the shadow of Chloe's curls bouncing as she raised a champagne glass, her silhouette framed by flickering kitchen light. It wasn't just a joke. It was a wish I hadn't made it. A part of her had hoped I would disappear, not just from the party, but from the narrative entirely. Easier that way, I guess. No awkward questions, no reminder of the sister she couldn't Photoshop out. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Even the hallway seemed to go still. Eventually, I backed away, careful not to let my heels click too loudly. I slipped into the restroom down the hall and locked the stall door behind me. My breath hitched, then steadied, then broke again. I didn't sob. I didn't scream. I just leaked, like a faucet that had been dripping for years, ignored until the pressure cracked something deep inside. And still, not a single soul came looking for me. No one noticed I was gone, because to them I'd never really been there. Not as a guest, not as a sister, not as family. By the time I slipped out the side door and into the parking lot, the snow had started to fall again. Light, delicate, almost gentle. It didn't sting like it had earlier. Maybe because the real sting was behind me now. I sat in my car for a long time, just breathing, just existing. I stared at the passenger seat where the cake had once rested, ribbons now untied, box unopened, untouched, like I had been. My phone buzzed. 14 missed calls, none from Chloe, none from my mother, just cousins, aunts, people who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly had opinions. I scrolled through the messages, eyes skimming past the lines I'd already memorized. Why would you just leave? You embarrassed Chloe. She didn't need that drama tonight. And then, the one that stopped my breath cold, from my mother, sent to the family group chat. She's been emotionally unstable lately. Just give her space. That was it. That was the version of me they'd decided to share. The rewrite had already begun. No mention of the storm, of the cake, of the hallway whispers that still echoed like knives. Instead, I was cast as the problem. Again, the dramatic sister, the attention seeker, the unstable one. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was curated, distributed, scripted for maximum control. I checked Chloe's Instagram. She'd posted a carousel, her in that blush pink gown, surrounded by her bridesmaids in white faux fur shawls, all laughing under twinkling lights. The caption? A perfect night with all the people I love, harsh engaged life. Blessed, I wasn't. In the frame. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't even a footnote. And yet, I wasn't surprised. What caught me off guard was a DM from an old college friend. Weren't you at Chloe's party? She said you couldn't make it. Everything okay? I stared at it, then back at the photo. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about leaving me out. It was about removing me, erasing me from the memory before it was even fully lived. And for the first time that night, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I felt something different. Clear. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want apologies. I wanted truth, and if they were going to rewrite the story, I was going to publish the real version first. The next morning, the sky was a pale, indifferent gray. I sat cross-legged on my bed in the same clothes I'd worn the night before. Hair, tangled, makeup smudged, the faint scent of buttercream still clinging to my coat draped over the chair. My phone sat face down on the nightstand, buzzing every few minutes like a guilty conscience. I didn't reach for it. Instead, I opened my laptop and clicked into a folder I'd labeled the night before. Truth. Inside were 3 files, a photo of the untouched cake sitting on the silver prep table, a blurry selfie I'd taken outside the venue, cheeks red, holding the box like it meant something, a screenshot of the group text I was never supposed to see, Chloe's message. She doesn't. Fit the look? Say the list was full. I selected all 3, uploaded them to Instagram, and wrote the caption slowly. Sometimes you show up for people who wouldn't shovel your name off a sidewalk, but that's how you learn. Some things you do out of love. Some things teach you who deserves it. I turned off comments after 20 minutes. Then I opened a new email. Subject line, receipt, cake, Chloe's engagement. I attached the bakery invoice, the one with the custom flavor and early delivery, time, plus the same 3 photos from my post. I sent it to 3 people, my mother, Chloe, and Aunt Elise. No commentary, no anger, just proof. Then I opened a second email, this one to the public relations department of the company where Ryan, Chloe's fiancé, worked. Attached were the same files, plus a PDF of the bridal group chat. I didn't write anything in the body. Didn't need to. They'd see what they needed to see. This wasn't revenge. It was documentation. They wanted to pretend I'd made a scene. That I was unstable, emotional, inventing stories for sympathy. But I had time-stamped images, screenshots, receipts with my name on them. Let them explain that. That night, as the snow returned in thin, harmless flurries, my phone buzzed again. Text from Tasha. You didn't hear this from me, but Ryan just postponed the engagement dinner with his parents. Said something came up. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one spinning in. Circles trying to be understood. They were. Saturday arrived dressed in fake cheer, the kind that smelled like maple syrup and forced civility. I stepped into Aunt Elise's home just after 10. White platters of melon slices and sticky buns lined the buffet. Chloe stood at the far end of the dining room, surrounded by bridesmaids in matching sweaters, a champagne flute in hand, smile polished to perfection. From across the room, a few glanced at me, then quickly looked away. I took a seat near the window, strategic. No one had to face me unless they chose to. They didn't. Chloe tapped her glass with a manicured nail. The room hushed. I just want to say, she began, syrup in her voice. This week reminded me how important it is to choose love over ego. Family isn't about drama. It's about grace. A few people chuckled softly. A dig, disguised as diplomacy. I sipped my juice, calm. Then stood. Mind if I say something too? Forks paused midair. Aunt Elise froze, eyes narrowed. Chloe blinked, lips still parted from her speech. I didn't wait. I drove 9 hours through a snowstorm last week, I said, voice steady, controlled. I brought a cake I ordered 3 weeks in. Advance. Your favorite, Chloe. I arrived soaked, freezing, exhausted, and what I got was silence. The room tensed. Not one hello, not one seat, not one name card. I watched my sister laugh, then vanish. I heard bridesmaids whisper about how I wasn't on the list. And later, I paused, glancing toward Chloe. I heard you. Chloe's expression cracked. Lena, that's not fair. I raised a hand, not to silence her, but to hold the floor. Through the service hallway, I heard you joke about how it would have been easier if I crashed on the drive. You said the silence would have been convenient, someone gasped. A glass clinked. Chloe's face flushed. You took that out of context? I unlocked my phone, tapped play. Her voice filled the room. 9 hours through a snowstorm for what? A pity cupcake? Then Tasha's laughter. What if she'd crashed? Imagine the sympathy. Silence. I lowered the phone. That's the context. Ryan, standing in the back, stared at Chloe like he didn't recognize her. My mother looked down at her lap. No one moved to speak. No one rushed to defend her. Chloe's voice shook. You don't get to twist this. You twisted it the second you decided humiliation was easier than honesty. I called you jealous, she snapped. And I called your bluff, I replied, louder now. You needed a villain so badly you forgot the cost of making one. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was real, sharp, honest. I didn't stay for the pastries. As I walked to the door, Aunt Elise followed, placed a hand on my back, and whispered something I'll never forget. You didn't just clear your name, sweetheart. You burned the whole script. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. That night, the silence in my apartment felt different. Not hollow. Not heavy. Just earned. I was curled up on the couch, blanket tucked around my legs, when my phone buzzed. The name flashed across. The screen like a ghost trying to slip back through the door, it slammed. Chloe. I stared at it. No part of me flinched. No heart skip. No breath caught. Just stillness, I answered. Her face appeared on the screen. Same soft curls, same mascara-heavy lashes, but none of the usual performance. Just a woman unraveling behind an iPhone camera. You picked a weird time to ghost, she said, forcing a half smile. People are asking questions. I didn't speak. I'd learned something lately. Silence makes liars squirm. She shifted in her seat, voice dropping. You always overreact. You take things too personally. That night wasn't about you. Still, I stayed quiet. I didn't mean for you to hear anything, she said. You know how I get when I'm nervous. Tasha was just being stupid. We were joking. I let her talk, let her run the usual script. Waited for the part where she asked for my forgiveness without ever offering an apology. Finally, I cut in. Calm, clear. I nearly died getting there. Chloe, she blinked. I drove through a blizzard. For you. I brought your favorite cake. I stood in that freezing hallway and listened to you laugh about how peaceful things would be if I'd never shown up. That's not fair, she whispered. No, I said. What's not fair is being erased. No seat, no photos, no name, just a ghost crashing your party. Her jaw clenched. You're making this into a whole thing. I'm not making anything, I replied. I'm just done letting you rewrite it. She opened her mouth to argue, but I tapped mute. For 30 seconds, I watched her speak, hands flailing, brows furrowed, completely unaware I couldn't hear a word. Then, I ended the call, no drama, no shout, just done. Afterward, I opened my email, attached the catering receipt, subject line, the cake that got left behind. I sent it to her, to our mother, to Aunt Elise. The replies came fast. One stood out, from my mom. Just 4 words. This isn't helping, Lena. But they were wrong. This time helping myself was enough. Sunday morning came with sun, like the storm had never happened. But the silence it left behind? That lingered. I didn't check my phone, didn't scroll, didn't reread the messages or the comments piling beneath my post. I didn't need outside noise to tell me what I already knew. They'd written their version of me for years. The too sensitive one, the drama magnet, the emotional wreck. Not anymore. I pulled on a coat and walked 2 blocks to the little bakery near my apartment, the same one I'd ordered from before all this started. The woman behind the counter remembered me. She asked if I wanted another engagement cake. I smiled. No, just something simple. I picked a small white cake with gold dusting. No writing, no flowers, no occasion, just peace. Back home, I lit a single candle, sliced a piece and sat by the window. The snow was gone, melted into quiet puddles that reflected blue skies and bare trees. A clean slate. I didn't cry. I didn't toast. I just ate. Not for celebration, not for show, but because I'd finally remembered something I'd spent years forgetting. You don't need their permission to be seen. You don't need their seat to have a voice. And sometimes the storm doesn't come to destroy. It comes to clear the air. This story didn't end with applause. It ended with truth. And a slice of cake that finally belonged to me.